The Scottish collaboration is taking place from Monday the 5th to Sunday the 11th of December. So why not join us, and you might just find your next big obsession. Full details can be found at scottishmurders.com/collab.
Hello and welcome to CrimeDivers. I'm Laura.
And I'm Jill.
And welcome back to our podcast.
Hello everybody, welcome back. Or if you're new here, welcome.
Welcome for the first time. So Jill, where in the world are we?
We're in the USA.
Okay, and the title?
Talhotblond.
Gives a lot away. Okay, shall we just dive in?
Yeah, since you've got nothing to say.
I don't know.
Okay, so in 2005, Thomas Montgomery was 46 and he lived in New York. He worked at a company called Talhotblond, which designs and makes power tools.
Oh,
So like a factory thing.
Cool.
So he was bored in his job. He had dreamt of being in the Marines, and he did join up when he was 18. He never saw any combat, and he left the military with a drinking problem.
Oh dear.
So he did manage to overcome his problem, and he became a family man. He was married to Cindy, and they had 2 teenage daughters. He taught Sunday school at his community's local church, and he was the vice president of his daughter's swim club. But he was bored. He was impotent, so he was in a sexless marriage. Can I get that out there? And when his wife tried to talk to him, he just wouldn't listen to her, and he wouldn't talk about it. And
Was he a bit embarrassed, maybe?
yeah, and he could only see his side, not hers. And he said he was just disappointed with his life. He just wasn't satisfied.
All right.
So he started going on the internet site called Pogo. You ever heard of Pogo?
No, I haven't actually.
Well, I hadn't, so I thought, well, I'll have to go and investigate.
Of course.
So it's a site where you can play online games for free.
Oh, okay.
So while you're playing the games, you can chat to people as well. So obviously, I don't know what it was like in 2005, but I had a look when I was researching.
Mm-hmm.
And there's games there's word searches, you can play cards, slots.
All right.
And the one that I tried was Trivial Pursuit.
Trivial Pursuit. I like that game.
Yeah. Well, I did tell you
I know.
that I'd found an internet site that we could play a game on, and I told you I was playing Trivial Pursuit, and you just ignored me.
Oh, was that a hint to come and join you and play it, was it?
Well, no, but I thought you would have liked a little bit more information and said, we could do it sometime. Anyway.
Well, we could do it sometime.
Okay. So you can join a game and you chat at the table, and there's an option for public and private chat while you're playing.
Right.
So if you want a private chat, you have to send a friend request to the other person. So in this case, they talk about the chats as in chat rooms or game rooms. So I don't know if there maybe is or was different chat rooms with games in them or something. I'm not quite sure, but they could private chat anyway and play games and whatnot. Okay. So he would chat to people knowing that he was never going to meet them. So he would, tell them about his problems. Mm-hmm. He would never give out any personal information, but he said it felt good to offload. Mm-hmm. So Thomas was playing a game of blackjack one day, and there was another player with the screen name Talhotblond. Thomas's name was Marine Sniper.
Right.
So Talhotblond said hi, and Thomas said hi back, and they just started chatting. I don't know if it was because his name was Marine Sniper. She must have assumed that he was an older person, because she told him that he was in the wrong room. And she said, this is a room for kids. Oh. So he said that he panicked as he's heard lots of stings where adults are caught in kids' chat rooms. Mm-hmm. So rather than leaving, he told Talhotblond that he was 18.
Oh, right, okay.
So Talhotblond said that she was also 18.
Right.
And her name was Jessie. So as they chatted, she said, they must have chatted for a while, and then she, when they get to the let me see what you look like. And she sent a couple of photos to Thomas, and she was wearing a bikini.
Okay.
So she wanted to know what he looked like, so he said he was 6 foot tall, muscular, big shoulders, and he knew that she wouldn't keep messaging if he told her the truth, because obviously she was 18, he was 46.
Yeah, bit of a difference there.
So he said he was going off to Marine boot camp and his name was Tommy.
Right.
So he said he knew that he was never going to meet her, so, he could say whatever he wanted.
Yeah. Did she not ask for a picture of him?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
We'll get there.
All right, sorry.
So he would tell Jesse sob stories like he'd never felt loved since his mum had died when he was little, and he often thought of suicide. Jesse would tell him that she liked sports, and when she wanted to see what Tommy looked like, Thomas sent a 30-year-old photo of himself in his Marine uniform.
Oh, okay. So he did actually send a photo of himself?
Of himself, but it was a 30-year-old picture. But I just thought, can you not tell when it's an old picture?
Well, I don't know.
I mean, we are talking 2005, maybe sending pictures over the internet wasn't as... Maybe the pictures weren't as clear as what they are now.
Yeah,
because 2005, that's still kind of quite relatively new for internet chat rooms, that kind of thing. So
I don't know, but yeah,
she never thought anything of it anyway. So they called each other a few times at night when Tommy was supposedly off duty. And Jessie, she really believed that he was 18. So Jessie was from West Virginia. She lived with her mum, dad and brother. She was about to graduate and go to prom, and she wasn't sure about what she wanted to do with her life. She called Tommy her sexy Marine, told him that she loved him. She would send him like home videos, and she lost her virtual virginity to him.
Oh God, virtual virginity.
So, and she even, I mean, when he said that he never gave out any personal details, well, he obviously did now, because she sent him a necklace in the post. So he's obviously given out his address. And it was one of those, where you have you both have a necklace and each one's got like a heart on it. So, and like each one has a heart each. Each person has a heart each, and it said Jessie and Tommy forever on it.
But they've never met.
No. But they've seen photos. And, well, she sent videos and photos, and he's obviously just sent old photos. Obviously, he's not sent any videos because, he's 46.
He must have a young sounding voice if she believed he was 18.
Yeah, must have. She also sent him a pair of her knickers.
Really?
And then...
Do people really do that?
Well, obviously. And then they would be in the chat room and he would tell her what he was doing with the knickers, which we're not going into because we don't need to know. I think people can use their imagination for that.
Yeah.
So Jessie wanted to meet up in person, but of course Tommy couldn't because he was a 46-year-old man. He told her that he had now finished his boot camp, so he was being shipped out to Iraq. When he was supposedly in Iraq, he told her that he was deep in enemy territory, and he was protecting her and the whole of America. And he actually said, he said sort of later on that he knew. He was like, I knew that she was 18 because, she believed that I was in deep in enemy territory, but yet I can come online and, go into chat rooms and start playing games and stuff.
That was what I was thinking. I was like, but yeah, surely you would... I mean, I know they have their bases and stuff where they can contact their families, but not probably to go and play games on the internet, chat rooms and stuff.
Well, that's when he was like, that's why I knew she must have been quite young and naive to believe that. So it got to the point where he realised that this couldn't last. Jessie wanted a relationship with him and obviously wanted to meet him in person. So what he did was he started talking to her as Tommy's dad.
Okay.
So he said the reason for this was that Tommy was supposed to be at war. So it would look suspicious if he kept being online all the time. So Thomas, as Tommy's dad, was telling Jessie that he didn't want her speaking to his son anymore.
Okay. What? I mean, what?
So he's pretending he's Tommy and Tommy's dad.
Right. I mean...
And he's trying to break it off with her, basically.
Not that I would condone it completely, but he could have just ghosted her and just not I mean, they're not on online chat room. They could have just not. He could just not come on the chat room.
I'm sure lots of people have done that in the past,
and I'm sure she would eventually got the hint.
But then maybe he was worried because she had his phone number, she had his address.
Oh, that's true.
What if she just turned up and found out that he was actually married with kids and?
Well, that's very true.
So maybe that was the reason, but
maybe.
So he maybe didn't... Oh, I don't know. Anyway, so he'd said... sorry. He'd said that I don't want you speaking to my son anymore. I don't know what reason I gave for that.
Right.
But that didn't work. And Jessie was telling Thomas how much she liked his son. So he kept chatting as Tommy. Mm-hmm. And Thomas, I know it's a
bit confusing.
Yeah, no. Thomas said it was like an addiction, and he even tried to stop going online, but he would like be really, really irritable, and he would snap at his wife for like silly little things, and he would go out and do stuff with his daughters. So he was still being a good dad, just not a good husband.
Yeah.
But as soon as he got home, all he wanted to do was get on the computer.
Right.
Sometimes he would even sit up all night chatting to Jessie, and he would chat to him like maybe 5 a.m. and like go to work at 7 a.m.
Bloody hell. I mean, how do you even chat for that long?
Well, I don't know.
I mean, that's just a long time.
I'd be like, no, I need to sleep.
I'd be like, no, shut up. Like, what could you possibly talk about now? We've probably talked about everything.
My sleep is more important than chatting.
Definitely.
So they'd been talking for 6 months when Tommy proposed.
Fuck!
I know, this is him, this woman is trying to end it because he can't, and he knows that he can't have a relationship with her.
So why the hell is he going to propose if he knows fine well they can't be together? Like, what?
Because he was basically just living in a fantasy world.
Did he just get lost in the fantasy world?
Yeah, I think
lost in...
He wanted so badly to be this marine sniper, you know, like he was acting out his fantasy.
No, but surely he must have known it was all going to come crashing down at some point.
Do you think?
Well, I'm going to guess yes.
So in one of Jesse's diary entries said, quote, "My heart was breaking. He told me the only reason he had enlisted was to die. I told him to stay alive for me. He asked me to marry him. I said yes. I'll be nervous about my first time, but soon I'll be Jessica Montgomery."
Seriously? I mean, I'm all for young love and stuff, but you've got to meet the person first and actually like spend time physically with them. Do you know
and actually know that that's
well, yeah,
who
exactly.
you're talking to.
Exactly.
I mean, as we know, you could be talking to anybody.
Exactly. It just proves the point that you don't know who you're talking to really, unless you do like in this day and age you can do FaceTime and stuff. I guess. But back then there was no such thing as that, so.
So as the affair grew, Thomas seemed to cross the line between fantasy and reality, which I think he already has, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
And he wrote himself a bizarre note that he kept at work. And it said, quote, "On January the 2nd, 2006, Tom Montgomery, 46-year-old, ceases to exist and is replaced by an 18-year-old battle-scarred Marine. All paperwork is set, i.e. birth certificate, social security card.
What?
He is a strong, good-looking, battle-hardened boy. He has money in the bank, 2.5 million. He's handsome, like a red-headed Harrison Ford. Has a 9-inch penis, too much information. And he is moving to West Virginia to be with the love of his life." What the fuck?
Like, what?
Exactly. It's just him living in these...
No, but what did he say that he's got all the paperwork ready, so what?
No, he hasn't. He's just... I don't know. He's just living in some fantasy world.
I mean, I'm not being funny, but a 46-year-old that looks like an 18-year-old, I mean... find that hard to believe.
Red-headed Harrison Ford?
Jesus, that doesn't sound like a nice...
So he had become so obsessed and consumed the internet had become his world. Mm-hmm. So his wife Cindy, she had been suspicious for a while. And, well, it's just totally understandable. If he's on the computer all the time, you're going to be kind of going, well, what are you doing?
What are you up to, yeah.
And she would maybe be like watching TV or something, and he would be on the computer, and she'd maybe like wander over to see what game he was playing, but he would like just get rid of the chat with like a touch of the button. It would just like escape, whatever.
Yeah. Oh, you know something's happening there then?
Well, she would ask who he'd been talking to, and he would just say, "Oh, just some friends." Mm-hmm. So the guilt did start getting to him.
Really?
And at one point, he actually thought that he'd had a heart attack. He went to the doctors, and it turned out that he'd had a massive anxiety attack from all the guilt and stress of how. Yeah, I know. I'm saying really at the guilt, maybe the stress, because it must be quite stressful. I would think.
Yeah. Well, you know, keeping up
trying to hide what he's doing. Mm-hmm. And again, he tried to stop going online, but he just couldn't do it. He had to talk to Jessie.
So he had like an addiction.
Mm-hmm. So then one day, one of Thomas's daughter daughters was using his computer, and a message popped up from Jessie. So obviously she told her mum, and Cindy must have went on the hunt for evidence because she found a package that Jessie had sent to Tommy, a pair of red knickers. So she also found photos of Jessie and jewellery. So when she confronted him and he told her what was going on, she was like, what the hell are you doing? This girl is only 18 years old and you're leading her on. I think she was concerned about the 18-year-old rather than obviously there's going to be you're doing this behind my back, but what are you doing? You're leading her on.
So he obviously told her the complete truth, basically.
And she's like, why? What was? And then of course she's like, what's wrong with me? Why can't you talk to me? Because he was saying, it's easier to go online and talk to people, and she's like, well, why can't you talk to me? I'm your wife, and so suddenly she was devastated and she wanted a divorce.
Oh well.
But first she wrote a letter to Jessie, and part of it said, so it was quote, Jessie, enclosed you will find a picture of my family. Let me introduce you to these people. The man in the centre is Tom, my husband. There is no Tommy. He has taken advantage of you. You need to be more cautious with your safety. You will only be hurt by a man who has mastered the art of manipulation and lies. Do not trust words on a computer. Cindy Montgomery. I thought, good on her.
Yeah.
Good on her.
Because to be fair, that's exactly true. I mean, for anybody listening out there, it's fine to talk to people online, but you should never take them for their word of who they are, because they could be anybody, and you just don't. I mean, I'm sure there are some genuine people out there as well. Don't get me wrong.
Of course.
But you just don't know who you're talking to on the other side of a keyboard.
And I just thought that was so. She kind of took a motherly kind of approach to it, rather than what some people are like. They will blame the women as well. But to actually say, look, you're going to get hurt, be careful. I thought that was a really big thing to do.
Totally.
So Thomas went onto the computer and spoke to Jessie. That didn't stop him. And she was furious that she was furious because obviously she got the letter by now. She's like, oh my God, I've been chatting, having cyber sex, and falling in love with a 46-year-old man posing as an 18-year-old. So she told him that she hated him and he should be in jail, and she broke off the contact immediately.
Yeah.
So when Jessie and Tommy had been playing games in the past and not private chatting, they would play and they would chat with other players, but they weren't always just private chatting. They would chat to other people as well.
Yeah.
So Jessie remembered one of them. His screen name was Beefcake.
Beefcake.
And she knew that he worked with Thomas. In real life, they did actually work together.
Right, okay.
So Beefcake's real name was Brian Barrett, because I can't go through this story calling him Beefcake.
Fair enough.
So his name was Brian.
Okay.
Brian Barrett. He was 22 and he worked part-time at the same place as Thomas. And he was also a college student. So Jessie got in contact with him to find out if it was really true. Was Tommy really a 46-year-old man catfishing her?
Yeah.
And Brian couldn't believe I think he knew that they'd been talking, but he didn't know the extent of it. He didn't know that he'd been lying, and
he probably thought that she was well aware of who he was and stuff. Yeah,
I think he just thought he was doing what he does, just goes online, chats to people, plays games
innocently.
Yeah. I just think that he just didn't know anything about the private chats, and Brian felt sorry for her, and he consoled her, and they struck up an online friendship.
Right.
So Jessie started sending the same photos to Brian.
But how the hell did she know that he was being truthful as well? Because again, you're online. I mean,
she obviously didn't take Cindy's advice, did she?
Especially if they were friends, she could have just been pretending as well.
Well, she started sending the same photos to Brian as she had to Thomas. And, I think you can see where this is headed. She was a beautiful, tall, hot blonde, 18 years old. He was 22.
Which is more of a good age range.
Yeah, and was quite happy for the chats to be a bit more than just friendly. So as time went on, they got closer and they started having cyber sex and saying that they loved each other. But what Brian didn't know was that Jessie was still furious at Thomas for lying, and she was just basically using Brian to get back at Thomas.
Right, okay.
He was thought she was genuine, but she was just trying to get back in.
Right, okay.
So Jessie and Thomas stopped speaking for 2 weeks, but then Jessie missed Tommy So she started talking to Thomas.
Oh, for fuck's sake. Right.
I should have put a warning at the start of this episode. It's a bit confusing.
Definitely.
So Brian didn't know that Jessie and Thomas were back in contact. She would tell Thomas that she liked Brian because he didn't lie to her and he was closer to her age and that she loved him. So she was obviously trying to wind him up and get him jealous. And...
Of course, yeah.
So Thomas apologised for hurting her and she asked him for a favour. She asked him to not let Tommy die.
Okay, so she actually wanted to him to continue pretending to be Tommy.
Yeah, like Thomas replied with, "He won't as long as he's in your heart."
Oh my god.
She said, "Let him live in you." And then they said goodbye to each other. Oh no, so she didn't want him to continue talking. It was just like, we'll just end it nicely.
Yeah.
So they said goodbye to each other, and you would think and hope that was that.
Well, yeah, but I'm assuming there's a crime somewhere in here, because otherwise, why are we talking about it?
So, Jessie was not finished with Thomas. She wanted Brian to help her make fun of Thomas online. Jessie had some kind of hold over Brian and, like, he would do whatever she wanted. So they went into game rooms, like, you know, where they'd... Because, like, Marine Sniper Thomas, whatever, he was quite well known because he would chat to a lot of different people. But they would go into the chat rooms and, like, be calling him a predator. Calling him a predator and a loser. And he ended up being suspended from playing.
All right.
Because they were obviously like reporting him and stuff like that for being a predator.
Yeah.
So Brian then decided to tell their co-workers at the factory about what Thomas had done to Jessie. So he was a laughing stock and he was embarrassed. Like, well, not surprising.
Well, yeah, of course.
So he told Brian and Jessie to leave him alone, and he wouldn't even speak to Brian at work. He was like, "Nah, you're going to tell people, you know, you're making a laughing stock of me. Piss off. Like, I'm not talking to you."
Fair enough.
So by this time, Brian was getting a bit fed up of playing Jessie's games, and he felt that she was taking it too far. So he was kind of like, I don't know if we should continue this. But then Jessie invited Brian to go and meet her. Right. So he was like, oh, well, you know, she's pretty hot.
Yeah. Talhotblond.
So he told everyone at work that he was going to meet her, and Thomas started texting Brian saying things like, "I can't believe you chose her over our friendship." And fine, go and pop her cherry. I mean, this 46-year-old sounds a bit bloody immature.
Well, I was just going to say, I mean, is he just jealous or something because he's not getting to do that?
So Brian was like, why are you so bothered? Like, you're way too old for her. And Thomas got angry and told him to tell his little whore to stay the fuck out of his life.
Oh, lovely.
Very mature.
Oh, very, very mature.
But as it turned out, Brian never did get to meet Jessie because in an argument she got mad at him, saying that all he wanted was sex, so their relationship was over.
Okay.
Then Jessie decided to go back to talking to Thomas. Thomas was still fuming with her for humiliating him, but she managed to lure him back in and asked if they could start over as friends. She said that he was her only connection to Tommy and she would love him till the day she died. And he said, "I still feel Tommy in my heart." I'm just going to stop there for a minute to tell you about today's show sponsor. Support for Crime Divers podcast is brought to you by Manscaped, who is the best in below-the-waist grooming. Manscaped offers precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. Manscaped recently launched the ultimate hygiene bundle for the man in your life, the Performance Package. So help him join over 7 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with this exclusive offer for you. 20% off and free worldwide shipping with the code DIVERS20 at manscaped.com. If my math is correct, that's about 14 million clean-shaved balls. Now, I've got to say, I do like a clean-shaved man. So when Manscaped offered to send our husbands a gift, we just had to say yes, please. The Performance Package 4.0 by Manscaped has arrived, and obsessed is an understatement. Inside this package, you will find their Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer, Weed Whacker ear and nose hair trimmer, Crop Preserver ball deodorant, Crop Reviver toner, Performance boxer briefs, and a travel bag to hold his goodies, or yours if you want to steal it. First off, the Lawnmower 4.0.
This trimmer is the future of grooming and, dare I say, the greatest ball trimmer ever. John is delighted with it and he says he's never felt smoother. Ladies, it's so good. I'm even thinking about getting one myself. Their 4th generation trimmer features a cutting-edge ceramic blade to reduce grooming accidents thanks to their advanced skin-safe technology. The Lawnmower 4.0 is waterproof and also has a 4000K LED spotlight for a more precise shave. Say goodbye to his hairy mess on the bathroom floor and sink. The Performance Package 4.0 also includes the Weed Whacker nose and ear hair trimmer, which John used straight away, and it removed the hair easily and pain-free. And he even stuck it up my nose and in my ear just for good measure, so I can also say how easy that it is to use. The Weed Whacker is also waterproof and provides proprietary skin-safe technology which helps reduce nicks, snags and tugs in his delicate nose holes. Their Crop Preserver Ball Deodorant and Crop Reviver Ball Toner is the hygiene routine he needs for his balls. It's like your skincare routine for his goodies down there. John loves these products and he says they smell good and keep him feeling fresh all day long. Manscaped even threw in 2 free gifts to their Performance Package 4.0, the Manscaped Boxers and the Shed Travel Bag. The boxers are so soft and feel amazing. John said that once he had used the Performance Package equipment, he put on his new boxer shorts on and he said it felt absolutely fantastic. So it's time to take care of the man you love, so go to manscaped.com and get 20% off plus free shipping with code DIVERS20. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code DIVERS20 at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com and use code DIVERS20. Unlock his confidence and always use the right tools for the job with Manscaped.
So they agreed to start over as friends. He said, "Hi, I'm Tom." And she said, "Hi, I'm Jessie." Tom said, "I'm 47, because her birthday had went by anyway.
Oh, right, okay.
And a former Marine. Jessie said, "I'm 18 and I just graduated." So he congratulated her and everyone was all cool, and then they said goodnight. Okay. So, all was good. No more arguing, no more lies, just 2 friends playing games and chatting. So Tom started confiding in Jessie about Brian. He said that Brian had lost a very good friend in him and he had made a deadly enemy. Ooh. So he said that he hated Brian with a passion and for 10 cents he would eliminate him. Remember, he's a Marine sniper still. He's still in that headspace.
Oh, yes.
Jessie didn't take him seriously and told him he's a bit drastic. His answer to that was, "Payback as a motherfucker, Jessie." Mm. He also said, "I'm the ultimate weapon. I am a Marine." Okay. So Jessie asked him what he was going to do, and Tom replied, "Let's just say your piece of shit boyfriend came within a pussy hair of dying."
Right.
So, now you'd think that Jessie would be freaked out by that.
Yeah.
But she seemed to enjoy it. But she did promise that she wouldn't message Brian again. She then told Tom that she missed Tommy. So the conversation went, "Jessie, I ache for Tommy." "Tom, you killed him inside of me, Jessie." "Jessie, I'm so sorry, Tom." Tom. I mean, they know how old each other is now, like 18 and 47. Like,
it's obviously just very fantasy-like, isn't it? That's just what they're both doing right now. They're having fantasies.
Tom, "Jessie, I would sell my soul to be that Tommy. I want you so bad, Jessie. I want to hold you and kill you." I think that's maybe kiss you.
I was going to say, hope so.
I think that's maybe kiss you. Obviously, I've got kill on the brain.
Clearly.
And then Jessie, "Make love to me, Tommy." And then I'm not saying what they said next because it's all sex talk and nobody needs to hear me saying sex words because I would just giggle and laugh anyway. So.
Yeah, I definitely don't want to hear you say that.
Let's just say it was explicit.
Oh, okay.
And I was actually sitting there giggling away myself because I'm so immature.
Yes.
So they were back on track, being Jessie and Tommy, but Tommy was now being 47-year-old Tom. So
it's very confusing.
I know. But yeah, I mean, basically, she knows how old he is.
But she still wants to have the fantasy with the 18-year-old Tommy that doesn't exist.
They're cyber sex and they're doing whatever.
Right, okay.
So, but it wasn't all sunshine and roses for long though, because Jesse was still going onto the Pogo site and flirting with other guys online, and Tom hated it. He would beg her to stop as he was so jealous. He would tell her if she didn't want him in her life, then to leave him alone. But she said that she still did want him in her life. But she carried on flirting with other guys, and Tom lost it and he threatened her. He said if she didn't leave him alone, then he would go to her home and he would either physically hurt her or take something away from her that she loved dearly, meaning her mum.
I forgot. It's a bit extreme.
So Jessie stopped talking to him for a while. But then she came back one day and she said that her mum wanted to talk to him. So her mum came online. And
was it really her mum? I mean, who knows this? Because, I mean, Tommy had to pretend that he was... Well, Thomas was pretending that he was Tommy's dad.
It's all very confusing.
So I'm like, is it really her mum?
So her mum came online and told him to stay away from Jessie, and he said, fine, but can you tell her to stay away from me as well? It's not me chasing after her all the time. You know, she's just basically just as bad.
The two of them just shouldn't even go on that bloody website.
I know. So they came in agreement, like neither of them would begin in contact with each other.
Right.
So a couple of weeks went by and they didn't hear from each other, but then one day Jessie contacted Tom. See what I mean? It's not all Tom that's chasing her.
Yeah.
And he said, but your mum told me to stay away from you, and you were going to stay away from me. And Jessie's like, well, she'll never know. So they ended up getting back to the way they were before, like all lovey-dovey, having cyber sex one minute, then arguing the next.
Where do you find these stories?
Find the good ones. Well, it's not all good because you know there is a crime.
Yes.
So after a while, Jessie started messaging Brian again.
Oh, for God's sake!
Wanting to be friends. She didn't tell Tom, but Tom saw Brian's name on Jessie's MySpace page.
Right.
So he was fuming. He asked if they were back together, and Jessie said no, like they had talked, but they weren't together. Tom didn't know whether he was coming or going with her, and he asked her what she wanted, and she said that she wanted to end things with him, but as friends, not enemies. To which Tom replied, I'm not a fucking yo-yo for you to play with. She told him that she was asking him to let her go, and his response to that was, quote, you will pay now, bitch. You better be very afraid now. I told you what would happen if you and Brian got together, end quote.
Wow, bit of better than that, innit?
Mm-hmm. Jessie then messaged Brian and said, quote, I just wanted to tell you I have totally pissed Tom off, and he has it in his head that you and I are still together, end quote. Brian replied saying, no, it's okay, like he didn't really care what Tom thought. They hadn't spoke to each other in months, they weren't friends anymore. Mm-hmm. So he just wasn't bothered. So Jessie told Brian that Tom had threatened him, and he told her that Brian told Jessie that Tom had already tried to hit him with his car in the work car park.
Right.
And I think that's what he meant earlier when he said that your boyfriend came
with it,
within a, what was it, a pussy hair of dying or something like that. I think that's what he meant.
Uh-huh.
So Brian was kind of, do you think I should, like, tell my boss, or do you think I should tell somebody at work, and they both admitted they were a bit afraid of Tom, of what he was going to do. Mm-hmm. So Tom was still sending Jessie horrible messages like, you're nothing to me now but a lying whore who only wants Brian's cock in her.
Lovely.
He also used racial slurs, so obviously I'm not going to repeat that.
No.
But he wished rape on her, and like just kept going on about her being with Brian even though she wasn't, and like Jessie apologised to him and she was like, just leave me alone, and left the conversation. Mm-hmm. So the day after that, Tom tried to talk to Jessie, but he called her a whore. I hate saying that word because I can't say it properly. So she just left the conversation, and then the day after that, every time that he tried to speak to her, if she was on the online games, she just kept signing off whenever he would like try and speak to her. Mm-hmm. So that was after a couple of days. So one day, Brian left work at 10 p.m. and he got into his truck in the car park, and someone approached him from behind and shot him dead.
Oh.
So it was a Friday night, and as Brian had no weekend plans and the factory wasn't open over the weekend, his body wasn't discovered for 2 days.
Oh, wow.
Did you think it was going to be Jessie who got killed?
Well, I thought it was maybe one of the two of them.
Mm-hmm. So Detective Jim Hatch was the first officer on the scene. He said he walked up to the car and he saw 3 bullet holes in the driver's side window, which was closed. Mm-hmm. Brian was sitting in the driver's seat and he was slumped sideways with his arms at his sides. Jim could see a hole in his arm and a hole in his neck, and there was like blood everywhere. He could see that this murder was obviously pre-planned as well, because one of the car tyres had been let down.
Right, okay.
So he wouldn't be able to just get in the speed off. You know?
Yeah,
So the investigation into Brian's murder quickly focused on Thomas Montgomery.
Yeah.
So the police couldn't find him right away, and they were worried that he might be going after Jesse, because obviously he went for Brian first.
Yeah.
Is he going to go for Jesse? So of course they had to track Jesse down, because so far they only had a name. So Jim started looking through like driver's license records, etc. But there was actually another guy who was a lot younger than him, and he was like, "I'll just go MySpace," you know, and he managed to find her there. So that was much quicker.
Yes.
So West Virginia police were immediately dispatched to Jesse's house. So it was between 6 and 6:30 in the morning when Sergeant Lee Kirk and his partner arrived at her house. They knocked on the door and a woman answered, and he asked if her name was Jessie. So the woman said, "No, my daughter Jessie lives in Concord." So I looked up where that was, and it's in Massachusetts, so it's about 11 hours away from West Virginia.
Right, okay.
So the sergeant asked if Jessie had been here recently, and her mum's like, "No." And he's like, "So, okay, well, do you have a number so I can get in contact with her?" And the mum says, "No." And he's like, so the sergeant's obviously getting a bit frustrated, and he's like, "Well, she's your daughter. I need to get in contact with her because she might be in danger." So the mum was visibly nervous, and her eyes were starting to tear up a bit, and he could see that something was wrong. He kept asking her questions about where Jessie was, and eventually she broke down, started crying, and admitted that she was Jessie. She had been using her daughter's name all this time.
I actually thought that's where you were going.
When chatting to men online. So this woman was Mary Sheila, and she was 45.
But then, if she discovered that Thomas was 46, 47, then she was really 45, could they not have just come... She could have come clean as it.
That's what I thought.
Oh my
but
God.
she obviously wanted to carry on the fantasy that she was an 18-year-old. So her daughter, Jessie, had no idea that her mum had been chatting to men using her name, sending her photos to them, and sending like underwear and like jewellery and as well as having cyber sex with them. So Mary was asked to fill out a police report, and she said that Tom had called her, like obviously thinking she was Jessie, after the murder, and he told her that her boyfriend had been easy to take care of and that no 18-year-old was going to best him. So basically he was telling her, Jessie, it was her fault. So when police caught up with Tom, he refused to cooperate, and he said he didn't kill Brian. His computer was taken, and experts found thousands of instant messages that he had saved. And at the murder scene, there was a stone from a peach.
Right.
At the murder scene, that matched Tom's DNA.
Right.
There was also a gun clip left there, and that traced back to Tom, but he's still saying he didn't do him.
And does he get told that Jessie wasn't Jessie?
Well, we'll get to that. So the murder weapon was never recovered, and when the police searched Tom's house, they found his gun cabinet. Now, Tom had once said to a work colleague that if he ever committed murder, he would use a particular type of rifle. I mean, do people talk about that kind of thing?
I mean, I don't know.
I know we like true crime, but I don't say, well, if I was going to murder somebody, this is how I would do it, or anything.
Exactly. And then if you were to go and murder somebody, actually use what you've just told somebody that you're going to do. Yeah, that's a bit dumb.
So the shell casings found at the murder scene matched that type of rifle that he'd talked about. So this particular type wasn't found in the gun cabinet, but they did find some photos in the house. And there was one photo that Tom had taken of his wife Cindy years before, and in the background there was a particular type of gun case, that rifle.
Yeah.
So the FBI were actually able to enhance the photo to show that there was actually one of those guns because there was an open gun cabinet in the background, so they enhanced it. And,
wow.
Funny that, there's one of those guns there. So putting all that together, of course, it all pointed to Thomas Montgomery being the murderer. He was arrested, and once he was in the police station, they showed him a photo of Mary Sheila, because up until now he still thought that he'd been talking to an 18-year-old, and he was like totally shocked, and like all the blood just drained from his face, and he was just like absolutely speechless.
Well, I'm not being funny, he did it as well.
I know, but all that time, like he thought, because he's probably thinking, well, what are the chances? I'm the catfish. Like, you know, she's...
Clearly that's why she wasn't bothered.
So, he still wouldn't confess to Brian's murder, and while he was in custody, he attempted suicide. He had stopped eating and lost about £100, which is about 7 stone. And then he found...
He must have been a big guy.
Yeah, it must have been quite beefy to start off with. And then he found sleeping pills in another inmate's cell, so he took 25 of them, but it didn't work and he survived. So Tom said that he had an alibi. Said he was at home at the time of the murder, and that his wife and daughters would back him up. But Cindy was having none of that.
Why would she?
Yeah, no, exactly. She told police that no, Tom hadn't been at home that night.
Mm-hmm.
In a recorded phone call from the prison, Tom told his daughters, quote, "I'm going to protect you from all this. Mum knows that if you guys don't testify, then I'm going to lose and I'm going upstate. But I do love you more than you'll ever know," end quote. So at first it sounded like he wanted them to testify and lie.
Mm-hmm.
So, but then he obviously changed his mind because he said that he didn't want to put his daughters through a trial. So he started talking to his lawyer about pleading guilty. So his lawyer basically told him that he wasn't going to get off with it. So there was no point in pleading not guilty because he would end up getting more for pleading not guilty.
Yeah.
So he confessed and he was sentenced to 20 years in prison. And if he had pleaded not guilty, he would have got 25 years to life. So he was obviously, that's why.
Well, advised correctly, I suppose.
Mary Sheila's now ex-husband, who's Jesse's dad, Tim Sheila, he was interviewed after the murder and he was asked if he felt that Mary was responsible in some way for Brian's death. And he was like, yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I kind of have to agree a bit there.
And he also said that Mary continued lying after Brian's death and she had never told her own family the whole truth. The first time he had any idea what was going on was when Mary had to go to New York to testify.
Right.
So she played it down to Tim. She's like, she was one of several women that Tom and Brian were talking to. They would just chat about the weather and about the games that they were playing.
Yeah.
I mean, he knew that she was on the computer all the time, but anytime he went near her, she would close it so he couldn't see what she was doing. Pretty much the same as what Tom was doing when Cindy tried to look. And Jessie, she didn't even know the full extent of it until she Googled her mum's name.
Wow.
And the full story came up in the news reports, and her pictures were online for everyone to see. She still didn't know that her mum had been sending her pictures. And remember, her mum had been sending pictures of her in a bikini and...
Oh, God, aye.
She just couldn't understand why her own mum would do that. So she's cut off all communication with her mum, and her mum has never even apologised or explained why she did it.
Wow.
When police confiscated Mary's computer, they found hundreds and hundreds of photos of Jessie, and a lot of them had been taken without Jessie even knowing. And she hadn't just sent photos of Jessie to Tom and Brian, she'd been sending them to several men. It wasn't just those two. So she'd been sending her daughter's photo out to all these different random men on the internet.
That's mental.
And there was even a wee video clip that Mary had somehow managed to take up Jessie's skirt.
Oh my
God. She had managed to get I don't know how she's managed it, but she's managed to get, the phone or camera or whatever, up her miniskirt. So obviously you could see her knickers or whatever. And then she's emailed it to a few men saying, "Oh, do you like it?"
Oh, that's awful. What? That's disgusting.
So 6 months later, a journalist tracked Mary down and she gave an interview, and she said that all she ever wanted to do was to be a good mum, and she never wanted any of this to happen.
Well, I'm not being funny, but if you didn't want it to happen, you wouldn't have done it in the first place. And...
Well, she obviously didn't expect anybody to be murdered.
No, I get that.
But you try to be a good mum. A good mum doesn't send photos and videos of the child.
Well, exactly. That's
up
that's
to
awful.
people, to random men.
I know, random people online. That's awful.
So she said she was bored and lonely. Her children had grown up and her husband was often away for work, and she was just trying to have some fun online. And she said the only reason that she kept talking to Tom, after she found out his age, was to keep him talking to real life teenagers. So she was doing all these teenagers a favour by keeping him away from them by her chatting to him.
But what if Tom had really been an 18-year-old and she was the one that was obviously the old one, which have kept talking to him then? She to be honest, she's just as bad, because at first she did think he was an 18-year-old, didn't she?
Yeah, so she was a 45-year-old talking to an 18-year-old.
Yeah, at first, until she realised. So she's just as bad.
Yeah, I mean, as I said before, I'm sure, she didn't know that anybody was going to get murdered. She was on there having some fun.
Yeah,
but using your daughter's photos is disgusting, no matter what the outcome of that had been. Even if it had all ended up all well and good, you do not use your daughter's photos. That is absolutely disgusting.
No.
I mean, there's enough, online, there's enough, paedophiles out there. I mean, I know she was 18, but like predators.
Still, yeah.
Predators is more the word.
Well, it's still, but it's like it's almost like invading her daughter's privacy a bit, like, you know, by putting her photo out there for people to see that.
Can you imagine if you logged onto the internet, googled your mum's name, and all these photos of you came up with in your bikini and your
I know.
your
I'd be like,
miniskirts and
excuse me, what do you think you're doing?
so yeah, like she doesn't speak to her anymore, so I'm not surprised.
No, I mean,
So yeah, so there you go. So that was a bit of a. I hope everybody managed to keep up.
yes, because it was a bit of a confusing.
It was a bit confusing,
just with the names and stuff.
yeah, and you know, a catfish being catfished by a catfish.
Yeah.
And the thing is, Brian was the only one who's been honest. He was 22. He was everything that he said. You know, he wasn't lying or anything like that.
He's the one that lost his life.
He's the one who lost his life. He got stuck in the middle of it.
That's it, because he got entangled in their sordid love.
Fantasy.
Yeah, fantasy.
Yeah.
Yeah. What a shame.
I mean, one of the police officers said that he thought that Tom, as I said, he was still living out his fantasy of being a Marine, and the way that he killed him, you know, with the gun and like the rifle, it was kind of like what a Marine sniper would do, kind of thing, you know. So
awful. Absolutely awful.
Yeah. So yeah, as I said, I hope everybody managed to keep up.
Yeah. And just for future reference, if you are going to go on these chat rooms and chat to people, like,
Don't be a catfish.
Exactly.
And don't go and kill anybody.
No, exactly. and don't trust anybody either yourself.
No. I mean,
don't get me wrong, you can chat to people, but don't like, you know,
be careful.
Yeah, exactly. Be careful
be
who you chat to,
careful,
because at the end of the day, as we've just proved, not everybody's just truthful online, and there's a lot of liars and fantasists out there that pretend to be something and somebody that they're not,
and it just goes to show you never know what could happen. Who would have thought that just chatting to somebody online, having cyber sex with somebody online, could actually lead to a murder?
Well, exactly.
You know, that poor guy, he was innocent in all of it.
Oh,
you know?
yeah, totally was.
So, yeah, so if you would like to follow us on social media or get in contact with us, we are crime_divers_pod on Twitter and Instagram. Our email is crime_divers_pod@outlook.com. We're on TikTok and YouTube, and that's Crime Divers Podcast. Sorry, I got distracted. If you'd like to join us on Patreon for bonus episodes, ad-free episodes, early access to episodes, it's patreon.com/crimedivers. And if you'd like to buy us a coffee, buymeacoffee.com/crimedivers.
And as usual, if you haven't already, which by the way, we have had a lot of good reviews and nice reviews lately, so...
We have had some nice reviews lately.
So...
And it does actually help us to be seen more, you know, it does. I mean, people maybe don't really know the point in reviewing and rating and stuff, but yeah, it does actually help the podcasts get out there. So, you know, I always try and make a point of it. If I like a podcast, you know, I will go on and leave them a positive review. So,
yep, and we've had quite a few recent ones.
We've had some nice ones, yeah, we really have.
So if you'd like to join them in leaving us a review, obviously we're more than happy to receive. So please don't forget to.
Only if it's a good one.
No, we take all reviews.
No, only a good one. Only trolls go on and leave bad reviews.
Oh, that's
true.
I
would never leave a bad review. If I listen to a podcast and I don't like it, I just don't listen to it and move on to something else.
Yeah, that's true.
So,
yeah, so anyway, a long way of saying it, but if you haven't already, please don't forget to
subscribe, rate, review.
Thanks for listening. Bye.